In a small, quiet town named Maplewood, life was simple and peaceful. The people went about their daily routines, working, shopping, and spending time with family. Among them was David, a gentleman in a wheelchair. He was known for his warm smile and kind heart. Despite his disability, he lived a full life and often inspired those around him with his positive attitude. One sunny afternoon, David decided to visit the local park. He loved the fresh air and the sounds of children playing. As he rolled along the path, he noticed a group of young women sitting on a bench, laughing and chatting. Their laughter filled the air, but it quickly turned into sneers when they caught sight of David. "Look at that poor cripple," one of them said, her voice dripping with disdain. "He probably doesn't even have a job." The other women snickered in agreement, making David feel small. But he held his head high, refusing to let their words bring him down. He knew his worth, even if they didn't see it. David parked his wheelchair near a shady tree and took a moment to enjoy the beauty around him. The sun was shining, birds were singing, and everything seemed perfect. He closed his eyes for a moment, breathing in the fresh scent of flowers. Just then, an old friend named Tom appeared, waving excitedly. "David, it's been so long," Tom exclaimed, rushing over to him. He was a tall man with a cheerful smile, and David always felt better in his company. "Tom, it's great to see you," David replied, his spirits lifting instantly. As they talked and laughed, the group of women continued to watch from the bench. They exchanged puzzled glances as they noticed the friendship between the two men. Tom, dressed in a smart suit, was clearly successful. He leaned down, speaking with David animatedly, and it was clear they shared a deep bond. "Do you want to join us for coffee?" Tom asked after a while, glancing at the cafe nearby. "I'd love to catch up more." "Sure, that sounds great," David replied, feeling grateful for his friend's kindness. As they wheeled towards the cafe, the women on the bench couldn't believe what they were seeing. "That guy is friends with a businessman," Jessica, the leader of the group, whispered in disbelief. "He looks so ordinary." "I bet he's just a charity case," another woman said, rolling her eyes. "He probably doesn't have anything to offer." Meanwhile, David and Tom settled into a cozy corner of the cafe. David felt a wave of comfort wash over him as they reminisced about old times. They talked about their childhood, their dreams, and the challenges they faced. Tom spoke passionately about his work and how he had built a successful business from the ground up. "I'm proud of what I've accomplished, but I couldn't have done it without friends like you, David," Tom said sincerely. "You've always believed in me, and that means a lot." David smiled, feeling a warm glow in his heart. "You've worked hard, Tom. I'm just happy to see you doing well." As they continued their conversation, the women from the park entered the cafe. Jessica spotted David sitting with Tom and was stunned. She whispered to her friends, "That's the guy we were laughing at. I can't believe he's with Tom." The women decided to sit nearby, unable to take their eyes off the pair. They could hear snippets of their conversation. The more they listened, the more they realized David wasn't just an ordinary man. He was intelligent, insightful, and had a wealth of knowledge about business and life. "Maybe we judged him too quickly," Emily, one of the women, said softly. "He seems really smart." Jessica shook her head, still in disbelief. "No way. He's just lucky to know Tom. That doesn't mean he's anything special." But deep down, the other women started to feel ashamed. They had been quick to mock someone they didn't know, and now they were beginning to see things differently. As David and Tom continued to talk and laugh, a new realization dawned on them. Suddenly, Tom stood up to grab some napkins. As he left the table, Jessica gathered her courage and approached David. Her heart raced as she thought about what she would say. Excuse me," she started hesitantly. "I just wanted to say, I'm sorry. We were wrong to laugh at you in the park. I didn't know you had a friend like Tom." David looked up, surprised but composed. "Thank you for saying that. It's never easy to face judgment, but I believe everyone has their own story. The other women, now standing behind Jessica, nodded in agreement. We're really sorry, Emily added. We didn't know you were more than what you seem. David smiled gently, understanding their change of heart. I appreciate your apology. It's important to remember that we all have struggles and strengths, even if they aren't visible at first. With that, the air in the cafe shifted. David's words lingered in the hearts of the women, planting a seed of change within them. They realized that true strength and worth could not be measured by appearance alone. As David resumed his conversation with Tom, the women returned to their table, feeling inspired. They had witnessed an unexpected war, not one fought with weapons, but with words, judgments, and ultimately, understanding. In that moment, they learned that kindness could break down barriers and that true friendship transcended appearances. Little did they know that this encounter would change their perspectives forever, setting the stage for an incredible journey ahead. The turning point. The sun shone brightly on Maplewood the next day, but David felt a different kind of warmth in his heart. The unexpected apology from Jessica and the other women lingered in his mind. They had recognized their mistake, and he appreciated their courage to admit it. It was a small victory, but one that reminded him of the importance of kindness. As he wheeled through the park again, he noticed the group of women gathered in the same spot where they had laughed at him. This time, instead of sneering, they were chatting and laughing among themselves, glancing at him occasionally. David felt a mix of curiosity and caution. Would they treat him the same way again? As he approached, he noticed they had a picnic set up on the grass. A colorful blanket was spread out, and there were snacks and drinks laid out. David hesitated for a moment, then decided to smile and say hello. "Good afternoon," he called out, his voice friendly. The women turned toward him, surprise lighting up their faces. Jessica stepped forward, looking a bit nervous. "Hi, David. We're having a little picnic. Would you like to join us?" David raised an eyebrow, unsure if they were genuinely inviting him or just trying to make amends for their past behavior. "Are you sure? I don't want to intrude." "Please, we love your company," Jessica insisted. "We want to learn more about you." Encouraged by their sincerity, David rolled closer. As he joined them, he noticed a change in their demeanor. They seemed genuinely interested in him now, not just in a fleeting moment of entertainment. "So, what do you do, David?" one of the other women, Emily, asked as she poured him a glass of lemonade. David took a sip, enjoying the coolness. "Well, I used to run a small business, but I shifted to doing some consulting work lately. I enjoy helping others find their way in the business world." The women listened intently, nodding as he spoke. "That's impressive. We had no idea you were so accomplished," Jessica said, her voice sincere. "We only saw you in the park, and we jumped to conclusions." "Yeah, we've learned that everyone has their own story," Emily added. "It's easy to judge someone without knowing their background." David smiled at their newfound understanding. "It's okay. I've faced that kind of judgment many times. It's tough, but it's a part of life. The important thing is to learn from it." As the conversation continued, David found himself opening up more. He shared stories of the challenges he faced after his accident and how he worked hard to build his life again. He spoke about his dreams, his passions, and the importance of community support. The women were captivated by his journey. They asked questions, eager to understand his experiences better. They began to realize that there was so much more to David than met the eye. As the sun began to set, painting the sky with hues of orange and pink, Jessica spoke up again. "David, we were thinking, we'd like to help spread awareness about people with disabilities. We want to change how our friends see them. Would you be willing to share your story more widely?" David was taken aback by their offer. He had never considered sharing his experiences publicly, but the thought of helping others in similar situations filled him with hope. "I'd be honored," he replied. "If it can make a difference, I would love to help." With that, the atmosphere shifted once again. The picnic became a brainstorming session as they discussed ideas for raising awareness, organizing events, and supporting those with disabilities in their community. David felt a spark of excitement as they all contributed ideas, showing how much they wanted to change their perspectives and help others. From that day on, the group began to meet regularly. They formed a friendship that grew deeper with each gathering. The women learned more about the challenges people with disabilities faced, and David found himself empowered by their eagerness to learn and change. Word spread in Maplewood about their mission, and soon other community members joined in. They organized workshops, awareness campaigns, and even a charity event to support local organizations that helped people with disabilities. David became the face of the initiative, sharing his story and inspiring others to see beyond appearances. As the group worked together, David began to feel a sense of belonging he hadn't experienced before. The women who had once sneered at him had become his allies, friends, and advocates. They were proving that change was possible, not only within themselves but in the community as a whole. However, there were still some challenges ahead. Not everyone in Maplewood was as accepting, and David knew that the road to change would be filled with obstacles. Yet he felt ready to face them, surrounded by supportive friends who were determined to make a difference. The unexpected war that began with mockery had transformed into a powerful movement for change. David realized that he could turn painful moments into opportunities for growth, not just for himself, but for others as well. He was no longer just a man in a wheelchair. He was a symbol of resilience, strength, and the belief that everyone deserved respect and understanding. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow over Maplewood, David felt hopeful. Together, they were creating a new chapter, not just in their lives, but in the life of their community. And this was just the beginning. The first challenge. The weeks flew by, and David found himself busier than ever. He and the women had organized a community event called Empowerment Day. The aim was to raise awareness about the challenges faced by people with disabilities and to promote inclusivity in Maplewood. Flyers were posted around town, social media buzzed with excitement, and David felt a growing sense of purpose. As the day approached, however, anxiety bubbled beneath David's calm exterior. He had never been the center of attention before. Speaking in front of a crowd was daunting, but he also understood how important it was to share his story. He wanted to inspire others to look beyond appearances and embrace empathy. The night before the event, David sat in his living room, practicing his speech. He had written it down, but the words felt heavy in his mind. What if people didn't listen? What if they mocked him again? He shook his head, trying to dismiss the negative thoughts. "You can do this," he whispered to himself. "You are not alone." The next day, the sun shone brightly as the event began in the local park. Colorful banners fluttered in the breeze, and booths filled with information about disabilities lined the walkways. Families, friends, and community members gathered, their faces full of curiosity and excitement. David arrived early, wheeling up to the main stage where Jessica and Emily were busy setting up. "Hey, you made it," Jessica exclaimed, her eyes sparkling. "We were just about to start rehearsing. Are you ready?" David smiled nervously. "As ready as I can be, I guess. Just remember, you're not just sharing your story. You're sharing a message," Emily encouraged him. "People need to hear it." With those words, David felt a small wave of confidence wash over him. He joined the women on stage as they rehearsed their introductions. The crowd began to gather, their whispers blending into a soft hum of anticipation. As the event officially started, David watched Jessica take the microphone. She welcomed everyone warmly, expressing gratitude for their support. She explained the purpose of the day and introduced the first speaker, a local advocate for disability rights. One by one, people shared their stories, each narrative adding to the fabric of understanding and compassion that was forming in the park. David listened, his heart swelling with pride for the bravery of everyone speaking out. Finally, It was his turn. As he wheeled up to the microphone, the crowd fell silent. David's palms felt sweaty on the wheels of his chair, and he took a deep breath to steady himself. "Hello, everyone," he began, his voice slightly trembling. "My name is David, and I want to share my journey with you." He spoke about his life before his accident, the struggle he faced afterward, and the harsh reality of being judged based on his appearance. As he spoke, he saw some audience members nodding, their expressions thoughtful. He shared moments of pain, but also moments of triumph, emphasizing the importance of kindness and understanding. "I know what it feels like to be ridiculed," he said, looking around at the crowd. "But I also know the power of friendship and support. Together, we can create a community where everyone feels valued and accepted." As he concluded, a warm applause erupted. David felt a surge of relief and joy. The energy in the park was electric, filled with empathy and connection. But as the event continued, David noticed a group of teenagers lingering at the edge of the crowd. They looked disinterested, their arms crossed, and their eyes rolled as they watched the proceedings. David's stomach twisted. Would they make fun of him again? He tried to focus on the positive energy, but their presence gnawed at him. Jessica noticed too and walked over to him. "Don't let them get to you," she said quietly. "Focus on the people who are here to learn." The afternoon rolled on with more speakers, interactive booths, and even a demonstration of adaptive sports. The crowd was engaged, laughing and sharing stories. However, every time David glanced toward the teenagers, he felt a knot tighten in his chest. As the day wound down, a sudden shout broke through the joyous atmosphere. One of the teenagers had stepped up to the stage, a smirk on his face. "What a joke. You think this changes anything? You're just a cripple." The crowd gasped, shocked by the rude outburst. David's heart raced, a mix of anger and hurt washing over him. He could feel everyone's eyes on him, waiting to see how he would react. But before David could respond, Jessica stepped forward, her voice strong. "That's not what we're about here. This event is about understanding and support. It's about respect for everyone, no matter their circumstances." The teenager sneered, but David could see some of his friends rolling their eyes, embarrassed by his behavior. "Shut up. Who cares about some guy in a wheelchair?" He spat back. David felt a surge of determination rise within him. He took a deep breath and spoke up, his voice steady. "You know, I used to think like you. I thought I was worthless after my accident. But I've learned that everyone has value, no matter their situation. Maybe it's time for you to think about what you really believe." The teenager paused, taken aback by David's calm response. The crowd fell silent, all eyes on him. David could feel the weight of their support behind him. He had faced his fears, and in doing so, he had not only defended himself, but also stood up for others who had been hurt. The smirk faded from the teenager's face, and he stepped back, unsure of how to respond. David turned his gaze back to the crowd, who erupted into applause. It was a moment of solidarity, a reminder that love and acceptance were more powerful than hate. The event concluded with a sense of triumph. David felt a renewed strength, knowing he had not only faced a challenge, but had also inspired others to stand up for what was right. The work ahead would not be easy, but with the support of his friends and the community, he felt ready to face it all. As the sun began to set over Maplewood, David knew this was just the beginning of a new journey, one filled with hope, friendship, and the determination to make the world a better place for everyone. A new friendship. After the event, Maplewood was buzzing with energy. People were talking about David's powerful speech and how he stood up to the disrespectful teenager. News of the event spread quickly, and the community felt more connected than ever. David's heart was full, but he also felt something new, a sense of belonging. The next day, Jessica and Emily invited David to join them for lunch at a local cafe. He felt nervous but excited. Over the past few weeks, they had become more than just acquaintances. They had formed a friendship, David rolled up to the cafe, the aroma of fresh coffee and baked goods welcoming him. "Hey, look who made it," Jessica called, waving enthusiastically. Emily was already seated at a table, her smile brightening the room. As David joined them, he felt a warm sense of acceptance. They talked about the event, sharing their favorite moments. Jessica laughed as she recounted the look on the rude teenager's face when David responded to him. Emily chimed in, "You were amazing. I've never seen anyone handle that situation so gracefully." David felt a flush of pride. "Thanks. I was just trying to show that words can hurt, but they can also heal." As they chatted, a waitress approached their table. Her name tag read Maya. She was friendly and smiled warmly at David. "Hi there. I heard about the event yesterday. It was inspiring." "Thank you. It was a great day," David replied, feeling a little shy. "I hope it helped change some minds." "I think it did," Maya said. "People need to hear stories like yours. They make a difference." David smiled, feeling encouraged. After ordering their food, the conversation turned to their hopes for the future. Jessica shared her dream of becoming a lawyer, advocating for disability rights. Emily talked about her desire to start a non-profit organization to help those in need. When it was David's turn, he hesitated for a moment. "I want to write a book," he said slowly. "I want to share my experiences and help others see the world differently." "That's an amazing idea," Jessica exclaimed. "Your story can change lives." David felt a spark of excitement. The thought of sharing his journey in a book filled him with purpose. It could inspire others, just like the event had inspired him. As they finished their lunch, Maya returned with their check. "I just wanted to say, if you ever need a place to hold an event or want to promote your book, let me know. I'd be happy to help," she offered, her enthusiasm evident. "Thank you, Maya. That means a lot," David replied, feeling grateful. After leaving the cafe, David felt a new sense of hope and belonging. He had made friends who understood him and shared his passion for making a difference. Over the next few weeks, the friendship among David, Jessica, and Emily deepened. They met regularly, brainstorming ideas for David's book and planning future community events. Each gathering brought them closer, filled with laughter and shared dreams. One afternoon, while they were working in David's living room, Jessica suggested, "Why don't we plan a workshop? You can teach people about your experiences, and we can invite local schools. It's a great way to raise awareness." David loved the idea. "Yes, we can make it interactive, maybe include a cue and a session." Emily added, "And we can reach out to local businesses for support. This can be huge for our community." Excited, they began planning the workshop, eager to spread their message of inclusivity and understanding. David felt empowered, his confidence growing with each passing day. One evening, as they sat around David's table, he shared more about his life before the accident. "I used to take everything for granted, walking, running, even playing sports. I never realized how precious those moments were until they were gone." Jessica and Emily listened intently, their expressions serious. "I can't imagine how hard that must have been," Jessica said softly. "It was tough," David admitted, "but I learned to appreciate the little things, like spending time with friends or simply enjoying the sunset. I want to help others see that too." Days turned into weeks as they prepared for the workshop. Finally, the big day arrived. The community center was decorated with colorful banners, and chairs were set up in a large circle. David felt a mixture of excitement and nerves. As people started to arrive, David recognized some familiar faces from the previous event. Friends and supporters filled the room, eager to hear what he had to say. The atmosphere buzzed with anticipation. Jessica introduced David, her voice strong and encouraging. As he rolled up to the front, he glanced at the audience, taking a deep breath to calm his nerves. He could see people of all ages, some with smiles, others with expressions of curiosity. "Thank you for being here," David began, his voice steady. Today, we're going to talk about the importance of empathy and understanding. Everyone has a story, and every story matters. As he spoke, he felt the warmth of support enveloping him. David shared his journey, the struggles and triumphs, and the lessons he had learned along the way. The audience was engaged, nodding and smiling as they listened. During the Q&A session, hands shot up, eager to ask questions. David answered each one with sincerity, feeling the connection with the audience grow stronger. After the workshop, people came up to thank him. "Your story really touched me," one woman said, her eyes glistening. "I never thought about things that way." As David looked around, he realized the impact of his words. He had taken a leap of faith, and it had paid off. That evening, as David reflected on the day, he felt a profound sense of gratitude. He had built meaningful friendships, shared his story, and made a difference in his community. He was no longer just a man in a wheelchair. He was a voice for change. In that moment, David knew that his journey was just beginning, and he was ready to embrace every challenge that lay ahead. The turning point. The weeks following the workshop were transformative for David. His confidence soared as more people began to recognize him in the community. He received messages from strangers who attended the event, expressing how much his story resonated with them. Some shared their own experiences of overcoming challenges, creating a ripple effect of inspiration. One afternoon, while David was working on his book at home, he received an unexpected phone call from Maya. "Hi, David. I hope you're doing well," she said cheerfully. "Hi, Maya. I'm good, just busy with my book," David replied, a smile spreading across his face. "That's great to hear. I have an idea I wanted to discuss with you," Maya continued. "I've been thinking about organizing a charity event at the cafe to support local people with disabilities. I'd love for you to be a part of it." David's heart raced with excitement. "I'd love to help. What do you have in mind?" Maya explained her vision of a community gathering where local artists and musicians could showcase their talents, with all proceeds going to organizations that support people with disabilities. "And of course, we'd love for you to share your story again," she added. "Your voice is powerful, and people need to hear it." David felt a surge of determination. This was an opportunity to reach even more people and create a bigger impact. "Count me in. Let's make this happen." Over the next few weeks, David, Maya, and a group of volunteers worked tirelessly to plan the charity event. They coordinated with local artists and musicians, set up a social media campaign, and spread the word throughout the community. David was more than happy to help with promotional materials and share his story online, inspiring others to attend. As the event approached, David found himself reflecting on how far he had come. Just months ago, he had felt isolated and misunderstood. Now, he was a part of something much bigger, helping to advocate for those who might feel the same way he once did. Finally, the day of the charity event arrived. The cafe was buzzing with excitement. Colorful decorations adorned the walls, and the scent of delicious food wafted through the air. David rolled up to the entrance, his heart pounding with anticipation. He was greeted by familiar faces, friends, volunteers, and even people he had met at the workshop. "David, you made it," Jessica exclaimed, rushing over to him. "I can't believe how many people are here." Emily joined them, her eyes wide with wonder. "This is amazing. I can't wait for you to speak." David smiled, feeling grateful for their support. As the crowd continued to grow, he could see people of all ages gathering, chatting, and enjoying the vibrant atmosphere. When it was time for David to speak, the room fell silent. He rolled up to the stage, feeling the weight of the moment. He glanced at the audience, seeing smiles and nods of encouragement. "Thank you all for being here today," David began, his voice strong. "I'm honored to share my story and to be a part of this incredible event." He spoke about his journey, his struggles, his triumphs, and the importance of empathy and understanding. As he talked, he could see the audience hanging on his every word. It was a connection unlike any he had ever felt. After his speech, David opened the floor for questions. The audience was eager to engage, asking insightful questions that sparked meaningful conversations. One person asked, "What motivated you to keep pushing forward despite the challenges?" David thought for a moment before responding. "I realized that my story could help others. When I focused on making a difference, I found strength in my vulnerability." The audience responded with applause, and David felt a rush of emotion. He was no longer just sharing his story. He was igniting a movement for change. As the event continued, local artists and musicians took the stage, showcasing their talents. The cafe was filled with laughter, music, and a sense of community that warmed David's heart. He watched as people connected, shared their stories, and supported one another. By the end of the day, they had raised a significant amount of money for local organizations supporting people with disabilities. David felt a deep sense of fulfillment. This event was more than just a fundraiser. It was a celebration of resilience and hope. After the event, Maya approached David, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "We did it. I can't believe how successful this was." David nodded, feeling proud. "It was amazing. Thank you for believing in me and for this opportunity." Maya smiled. "You're a natural leader, David. Your story has the power to inspire change, and I can't wait to see what you do next." As the sun set that evening, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, David realized he had found his purpose. He was no longer just a man in a wheelchair. He was a beacon of hope for others. With newfound determination, David committed himself to continuing his advocacy. He began writing his book more passionately than ever, knowing it could reach those who needed it most. The journey was far from over, but with friends like Jessica, Emily, and Maya by his side, David felt ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. He was not just fighting for himself anymore. He was fighting for a community that deserved to be heard and understood. The revelation. As the days turned into weeks after the charity event, David's life continued to change. He was filled with purpose, and his advocacy efforts flourished. His story was being shared far and wide, inspiring many to come forward and share their own experiences. People reached out to him through social media, expressing their admiration and gratitude. David felt a sense of responsibility to continue this journey, knowing he could make a difference. One sunny afternoon, David sat in his favorite corner of the cafe, typing away at his laptop. He was immersed in his writing, crafting chapters that detailed his journey and the lessons he had learned along the way. The cafe buzzed with activity, and the familiar sounds of laughter and clinking cups surrounded him. He glanced up occasionally, greeting friends and acquaintances who stopped by to say hello. Suddenly, he noticed a woman at the table across from him. She looked upset, her eyes downcast as she stirred her coffee absent-mindedly. David's heart ached at the sight. He had always been empathetic to the struggles of others, and he felt compelled to reach out. "Hey there," he said, rolling his wheelchair closer. "Is everything okay?" The woman looked up, startled. "Oh, hi. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to be a bother." "You're not a bother at all," David replied warmly. "I'm David. I just wanted to check in. You look like you could use a friend." She sighed, and her shoulders relaxed slightly. "I'm Melissa. It's just been a rough week. I lost my job, and I'm feeling really down about it." David nodded, understanding the weight of her words. "I'm sorry to hear that. Losing a job can be really tough. But remember, it's not a reflection of your worth. You're still valuable." Melissa looked surprised. "Thank you. It's hard to see that right now. I feel so lost." "Trust me. I've been there," David shared, recalling his own struggles. "But it's important to keep moving forward. When I face challenges, I learn to lean on others for support. You're not alone in this." Encouraged by David's words, Melissa opened up about her situation. She spoke about her dreams, her fears, and how she had always wanted to help people but felt stuck. As they talked, David shared stories from his life, his journey from feeling isolated to becoming an advocate for change. "Your story is inspiring," Melissa said, her eyes brightening. "I never thought someone like you could understand what I'm going through." David smiled. "We all face different battles, but we can find strength in sharing our stories. If you want, I'd be happy to connect you with some resources that might help." As their conversation continued, David felt a spark of excitement. He had always wanted to uplift others, and here was a chance to help someone who truly needed it. They exchanged contact information, and David promised to send her some resources later that day. After saying goodbye to Melissa, David returned to his writing. Inspired by their conversation, he wrote about the power of connection and how sharing experiences can lead to healing. He knew that helping Melissa was just the beginning. There were so many others out there who needed support, just like her. The following week, David organized a small gathering at the cafe, inviting people from his advocacy group and anyone interested in sharing their stories. He wanted to create a safe space where people could come together, share their experiences, and find encouragement in one another. When the day arrived, David was nervous but excited. He set up the cafe with chairs arranged in a circle to encourage conversation. As people began to arrive, he felt a sense of warmth and community envelop him. Familiar faces joined new ones, creating a diverse group ready to support each other. Melissa blushed, smiling at the kind words. "I couldn't have done this without David and all of you. Your support gave me strength. Together, we can lift each other up and create change." The crowd erupted in applause, and David felt a swell of pride. Their advocacy group was no longer just a support system. It had become a movement of empowerment. They were transforming lives, one story at a time. In the following months, David and Melissa worked together to expand their efforts. They organized workshops and seminars to promote awareness about inclusivity in the workplace and beyond. They reached out to schools and community centers, sharing their stories and encouraging others to speak up. David felt a sense of fulfillment as he watched the impact of their work. The gatherings were not just about sharing struggles. They became platforms for empowerment and change. People began to connect, share ideas, and find solutions to challenges they faced in their lives. One day, while preparing for another workshop, David received an invitation to speak at a conference on disability advocacy. He was thrilled. This was an incredible opportunity to share their message on a larger platform. At the conference, David spoke passionately about the importance of empathy, understanding, and creating inclusive spaces. The audience was captivated by his story, and many reached out afterward, eager to learn more about their advocacy efforts. As the event came to a close, David stood outside, taking a moment to reflect. He had come a long way from feeling isolated and alone. His journey had turned into a mission to uplift others, and he was determined to keep going. He thought about Melissa and the other individuals who had come into his life. Together, they had transformed not just their own experiences, but the lives of many others. They had created a community where stories were shared and healing took place. In that moment, David realized that their journey was far from over. There were still countless stories waiting to be told, and he was ready to continue advocating for change. As he rolled away from the conference, he felt a renewed sense of purpose. The future was bright, and together, they would keep shining light on the path ahead. Their journey was not just about overcoming challenges. It was about rising together, embracing their stories, and inspiring others to do the same. David knew that, united, they could create a ripple effect of change, making the world a more inclusive and understanding place for everyone. Melissa blushed, smiling at the kind words. "I couldn't have done this without David and all of you. Your support gave me strength. Together, we can lift each other up and create change." The crowd erupted in applause, and David felt a swell of pride. Their advocacy group was no longer just a support system. It had become a movement of empowerment. They were transforming lives, one story at a time. In the following months, David and Melissa worked together to expand their efforts. They organized workshops and seminars to promote awareness about inclusivity in the workplace and beyond. They reached out to schools and community centers, sharing their stories and encouraging others to speak up. David felt a sense of fulfillment as he watched the impact of their work. The gatherings were not just about sharing struggles. They became platforms for empowerment and change. People began to connect, share ideas, and find solutions to challenges they faced in their lives. One day, while preparing for another workshop, David received an invitation to speak at a conference on disability advocacy. He was thrilled. This was an incredible opportunity to share their message on a larger platform. At the conference, David spoke passionately about the importance of empathy, understanding, and creating inclusive spaces. The audience was captivated by his story, and many reached out afterward, eager to learn more about their advocacy efforts. As the event came to a close, David stood outside, taking a moment to reflect. He had come a long way from feeling isolated and alone. His journey had turned into a mission to uplift others, and he was determined to keep going. He thought about Melissa and the other individuals who had come into his life. Together, they had transformed not just their own experiences, but the lives of many others. They had created a community where stories were shared and healing took place. In that moment, David realized that their journey was far from over. There were still countless stories waiting to be told, and he was ready to continue advocating for change. As he rolled away from the conference, he felt a renewed sense of purpose. The future was bright, and together, they would keep shining light on the path ahead. Their journey was not just about overcoming challenges. It was about rising together, embracing their stories, and inspiring others to do the same. David knew that, united, they could create a ripple effect of change, making the world a more inclusive and understanding place for everyone.